It did not begin with fireworks, it did not come with loud music or golden lights, it came quietly in the soft breath between tasks, in that small heartbeat, where the world of Grow a Garden paused just long enough for me to notice something had changed. A shimmer in the air, a glow where there had only ever been green and brown before, and my eyes locked on it like it was calling my name, but not in sound, and feeling in certainty that whatever this was, it was different. At first I did not even know what I was looking at. I had seen seeds before, I had planted, watered, waited, harvested, but this one did not look like the others. It pulsed with its own light, as if it had been forged from the sun itself, or maybe from the roots of the earth that knew ancient stories, ones I had not yet earned the right to hear. And yet here it was in front of me, waiting, still glowing softly, not loudly demanding attention, but gently offering. I stepped closer, slowly, almost reverently, not because the game told me to be careful, but because something deep inside me knew this was not just another task, not just another item in my inventory. This was a turning point, a crossroads where the past and future met and shook hands and said, "Are you ready?" Because once you hold this, once you plant this, once you begin this journey, everything you thought you knew about growing will shift, will stretch, will deepen. When I picked it up, it did not feel heavy, not in weight, but in meaning, like holding a secret that no one else had been trusted with yet, the kind of secret that changes not just your game, but how you move through it, how you see the soil, how you listen to the wind. Because after this, nothing is just a plant, nothing is just a crop. Every action becomes a conversation, every harvest becomes a memory. I found the best space in my garden for it. The soil looked the same as everywhere else, and yet it did not, because I had chosen it with care, with purpose, and that choice made it sacred. I crouched down and placed the seed into the earth, and for a moment, everything stopped, not the game, not the animations, but time itself. My screen held still, my breath caught, my hands hovering again, as if they knew this moment was different and did not want to rush it. The moment it touched the soil, I felt it shift. The entire garden seemed to lean toward it ever so slightly, like even the trees and vines knew something important had just begun. There was no explosion, no fanfare, just a low glow that spread through the ground like warmth on a cold day, like something waking up, like a voice whispering from beneath the earth that the story had just turned its first page. I watered it slowly, not because the task required it, but because it felt like tending to something ancient and alive, like I was not just helping it grow, I was helping it remember something. And as I stepped back, I did not feel like a farmer anymore. I felt like a guardian, like a storyteller, like someone who had been entrusted with something precious and powerful. Days passed, or what felt like days, maybe it was only moments, but each return to the game brought me back to that glowing patch of land where the legendary seed rested and waited and changed. I watched as it pushed its first green shoot from the earth, not quick, not loud, but deliberate, full of promise and mystery. And I knew then that this plant, this growth, would not be like anything I had seen before. I found myself speaking to it, not out loud, not really, but in the way you speak, with your attention, with your care. Every time I checked on it, every time I cleared space around it, every time I resisted the urge to rush or replant, I was speaking. I was saying, I believe in what you can become, I trust in what you are becoming. And then it happened, the bloom, the transformation, the shift from seedling to something new, something wild and strange and beautiful. It towered in color, it shimmered in light. It did not look like anything I had ever grown. It looked like something from a dream you forget as soon as you wake up, but that leaves a feeling with you all day long. Just stood there in front of it, not touching, not harvesting, not yet, just watching, letting the reality sink in. That I had grown this not with shortcuts, not with help, not with luck, but with time, with attention, with the quiet stubbornness of someone who keeps showing up even when it feels like nothing is changing, because one day something does. Harvesting, it felt like closing a chapter and opening a book all at once. It gave not just fruit or leaves or whatever material it had to offer. It gave a feeling, a rush, a wave of accomplishment that poured over me like sunlight. And I smiled, not because I had something new to sell or plant, but because I had become something new, the kind of player who waits, who watches, who trusts the process. And it was not just about pulling something from the soil, it was about pulling something from within myself. The moment I reached out to collect the legendary harvest, the world around my avatar seemed to hold still. The trees no longer swayed, just watched. The sky hung heavy with golden light, like it too was paying respect to what had grown here. And I could feel every past hour echo through that single motion, all the times I returned when it felt slow, all the care I gave when it looked like nothing was happening, all the patience when there was no promise of reward, just hope there was a wait. In that harvest, not the weight of the fruit itself, but the emotional weight of the journey that led to it, like collecting the final word of a long story, one that began with a single tool and a patch of land and no knowledge of what could become of it. And as the harvest entered my inventory, something shifted, not on the screen, but in me. I was no longer just playing Grow a Garden. I was becoming part of its rhythm, part of its breath. The fruit pulsed with color, not just visually, but emotionally, as if it carried not only nutrients or value, but pieces of every choice I had made to reach this point, and I held it in my digital hands like someone holds a trophy, not for being the best, but for finishing something that mattered, for seeing it through, not for fame or numbers, but because something inside refused to give up. And in that moment, I realized that this was not just about planting or farming or unlocking rare seeds. This was about growth in its purest form, the kind that happens silently, the kind that happens without recognition until one day it blooms, and you realize you have been changing all along, becoming someone steadier, someone who understands that the best things take time, that the truest rewards are not measured in stats, but in the way your heart feels fuller when the harvest comes. So I stood still a little longer than necessary, watching the light fall across the soil, watching the garden return to its gentle rustling and quiet whispers, and I knew that this harvest was not the end. It was a marker, a milestone, a promise that more waited ahead, more soil to tend, more secrets to unlock, more versions of myself I had yet to meet, all through seeds, all through care, all through the quiet magic of a garden that grows right alongside you. And with the legendary fruit safely gathered, I turned back toward the path, not to leave, but to begin again, because the beauty of Grow a Garden is not just in what you reap, it is in how you choose to keep planting. Even when the world is silent, even when the soil takes its time, even when no one sees. And I did choose to keep planting, because now I knew what was possible. And once you unlock a piece of wonder, you never forget the feeling of finding it. And you never stop chasing it again. From that day forward, every patch of land felt different, every seed carried more weight, because I knew what they could become, and I knew that somewhere buried in the code of this game, in the digital breath of this garden, there were more secrets, more legendary seeds, more stories waiting to be uncovered, not with force, not with impatience, but with love, with belief, with the slow, steady hands of someone who understands that the greatest rewards do not flash. They bloom, and the soil never looked the same again. What once was just dirt, pixels arranged in lines and corners, became something sacred, something alive. I walked the garden, now not with the urgency of a player chasing points, but with the reverence of a caretaker, someone who had seen what was possible and now moved with intention, not haste. I touched the earth knowing it could hold treasure. I planted not because I had to, but because I wanted to witness the miracle again. Each morning in the game felt like the beginning of a season, even if only a few minutes had passed. The way the sunlight returned, the way the shadows stretched and curled over my fields, all of it whispered that this land was ready again, and I was too more ready than ever before, not because I had gained a tool or unlocked a badge, but because I had unlocked a truth. The garden gives back what you give to it, and it remembers everything. I no longer rushed through the process, the watering, the planting, the waiting. All of it became part of a rhythm I respected and followed, like a song that teaches you how to breathe slower, how to be more present. I watched the trees now, with more patience, their branches moving with grace, their fruit growing in silence. And I smiled, knowing that something beautiful was on the way, not because I demanded it, but because I believed in it. And with every harvest that followed, I remembered the first legendary seed, not just as an item, not just as a moment, but as a doorway into a new way of playing and thinking and feeling. It taught me that this game was not just a collection of upgrades and stats, and I knew I would keep playing, not just to grow, but to understand, to explore, to be part of something living and quiet and wild that lives in every seed, in every tree, in every square of land, waiting for the right player, the right moment, the right whisper of attention to unlock something truly epic.